Alright guys, trying out this new GoPro head mount that I got. So I'll be quite busy from here on out showing you guys the nitty gritty of bus ownership and car ownership. Eventually I'll, do some videos on Miss Sheila too, but today it's about Queen Mary. So today we got a couple of projects that I want to try and tackle. So first things first, we got acetone, so that way we can get off the old adhesive from the Carter logos. So we got acetone and Starbucks. See, the thing is, this you can drink, that you can't. Don't drink that at home, okay? Only drink one of those at home. So far I've already started. Take a microfiber, some acetone, basically smooth, whole logo, everything is gone. So I'm gonna finish the rest of this, and I'm gonna get her warmed up and started up. She needs a bath, definitely needs to be washed, so I'm gonna wash her, eventually get a buffing machine, get that going on, and I'm gonna leave the front the way it is because, by the time you factor in all the future projects and stripes and everything for it, doesn't make sense to waste time. I'd rather just get rid of this adhesive, smooth this up, make everything look nice, and it'll be good to go. So that's project number one with acetone. Just right on top of the car. Acetone, however. And that's one. Second project. The only real issue with this bus, and feel free to comment your opinion. We don't need any know-it-all mechanics, but definitely open to ideas and things to try. So, this is the battery tray. So back here you have your air dryer. This is your wet tank. So you have your air dryer, which is behind the battery. I'm not gonna slide that out right now because that's a lot of work, but your air dryer is right behind the battery tray. So the problem with this bus is that the air dryer spits very frequently. We're talking about every 15 seconds or so, ever since you changed the governor. So now it's down to the nitty gritty. So you have your air compressor, which is right here. It's a Bendix, it's a 2-flow for the Series 50. It's a 2-flow, and then you have your, your standard D2 governor, which is right. Let me see if I could. Right there. You see it right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test the lines. I'm gonna disconnect this wire right here, because if you disconnect this will go to the dryer. It goes behind the fan. As you can tell, it's a very difficult, hose. It goes behind the fan. It's a real pain to get to, especially if you want to change the belts, which I had to go through hell and back to change the belts. Had to take that to the shop because there's just certain things that you just cannot do yourself, and if you want it done right, you got to go take it to somebody who knows what they're doing, a little more than me. I don't know everything, so but I'm actually proud to say I know a lot more about this bus than that Nissan over there. Funny to say, but at the same time, I spend more time around these than I do driving cars. So this is my passion. This is what I like to do. So right here you have your, while we're over here, it's your AC belt, drive belt. It's a 16 rib belt, very difficult to find, but luckily I found it. And you got your alternator belt right there inside there in the shroud. So this line goes from your governor, then you got a Skinner valve under here, goes through there to the dryer. So today we are gonna test and see if there's air coming back in here. If there's air coming back, into the governor, and I'm gonna take this side out too. If there's air coming back, then that means this line is good, it's not clogged, and it's telling the dryer and the governor to stop pumping. If there isn't any air coming back from either side, then that's why the governor does not know when to stop, and it keeps pumping. That's the problem with this bus. It just keeps pumping and pumping and pumping, and it's not good. You get an extra amount of oil in the system and water and things you don't need, especially since it's getting cold. Got to be on top of that. So safety first before anything. So that's what we're gonna do. Nothing crazy today. We're gonna get some acetone and we're gonna keep doing the sides. So we might as well start her up, start getting things going. I already checked all the fluids, so so I'm gonna start her up, let everything go. I'm gonna tackle one project at a time. I'm gonna do the acetone first because that's least important, so I'm gonna get that done first. Then I'm gonna drain all the tanks one by one, all 4, and unplug those lines, because you never want to take out those air lines and it's under load. You know, this system can handle all the way up to 150 psi. It's a lot of air. You don't want to hurt yourself, and I don't want to hurt myself. So, you know, I wouldn't like that. Wifey wouldn't like that. Family wouldn't like that, and Mary wouldn't like that. So, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna end it here for this part, and I am going to go inside, get some shop towels, and we're gonna get a time lapse of Mary building up air. I can't wait to see this. All right, so this is the issue I was talking about with the dryer slash governor slash compressor, because they all work together. This whole system works together. So the dryer will keep pumping as long as it keeps getting air. So the issue is it doesn't know when to stop, and it has to get the signal. So that's what we're gonna diagnose today. But in the meantime, so I'm gonna get my acetone and my shop towels, and I'm gonna finish what I started. So I'm gonna get some shop towels. It excludes the floor. I had to sweep all the stuff up in one stack so that way the interior is nice and clean. So, you know, I gotta have my interior clean. I don't like dirty, so I'd rather put all my dirt in one pile, and then when I take it out, that's when I go and throw it out in the garbage bag. So shop towels, I'm just gonna take 2. I'll take the whole roll. Doesn't make sense. I have to keep doing multiple trips. We're gonna go to town on this bad girl. So this is what I was saying about this acetone, which shout outs to my boy Nick. He was a good, you know, Nick, by the way, tremendous help with the paint job. The white and everything was like that when I got the bus, and when you wash it, it looks so nice. Like for paint that was painted a while back, it was nice. But we did, you know, the black right here, the swirl up, then we did the black trim, you know, with the numbers up there, you know, I did the rims, all this other stuff. So, you know, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about using acetone. Yeah. So get your, you know, you can soak it up really, honestly. You know, and when you wipe it, it just comes right off. That's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah. Oh, well, don't do that, guys. But it just comes off. It's amazing. But one thing's for sure, if you're wearing any type of nail polish, I would not advise this at all, because it will eat away at the nail polish. So, I mean, I'm not wearing any nail polish, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it looks so much nicer. Again, once I get the stripes go from here to about the top of this wheel skirt, and it goes all the way back to the end of the bus. So it's really here nor there. I'm just being very particular about it. You know, I want it to look nice, you know, because I'm not exactly sure when I'm gonna get the stripes. You know, due to COVID, everything has changed, so it's not really on the list of priorities yet. You know, I'd rather get the dryer issue fixed, because that's the most important thing. And outside of that, you know, she runs good. Got no black smoke, starts up every time. So, you know, it's the little things, you know, that make your day go by. Little things. This is bus ownership. Bus ownership is not just taking pictures and taking the bus out and parking it somewhere and, you know, just letting everybody else get their hands dirty. Like, look, I just started and I already have, I mean, this is nothing. On a good day, I'm completely covered. And you know what? I'm cool with that. I love it. This is what I live for. And when I'm not working on this, I'm working on that. 3.5. All my VQ lovers out there, I love my Nissan. So we're gonna finish up with this. This stuff does not play. And I mean, it just comes off like, I was using my drill at first to sand it down, but it doesn't, you know, doesn't make sense. You don't have to use a drill, waste batteries. You know, just use that stuff for, you know, just get some acetone. Now this is kind of hard to find because a lot of Home Depots don't have the smaller cans like this one. This is a 1 quart. A lot of Home Depots that I checked, they don't have them because I guess it's pretty popular. I mean, you don't really need the gallon. I mean, you don't really need a gallon for this. And, you know, it's not like I'm taking off a whole bunch of adhesive. So it's pretty amazing stuff. No buffing wheel or heat gun or anything crazy. So pretty amazing. Now I'm just getting rid of the yellow haze to make it really look nice, like almost like it wasn't there. Now granted, it's a 25-year-old bus. This bus was painted at least somewhere around 2008, so this paint is well over, I want to say maybe like 10 years old, 12 years old, around there. What saved this bus was it never had a full body wrap on it. It only had a wrap from the middle, from this wheel well basically to the back wheel well, and it had one in the back. So I never had to deal with the peeling or repainting, and you know, when you take it through the wash, it'll get off a lot of the dirt and everything. So the paint stayed nice. Whatever paint they used was pretty good white paint. So it's one thing that, you know, I never was fortunate enough, I didn't have to worry about that. So I'll take this any day over a paint job. So, and this is one of the light things to do on the bus, you know, cheap, something cheap. This was $7.97, and look what $7 gets you. It gets you, you know, some nice results. So that way when you back up, and you walk away, it looks nice. I'm thrilled. I'm gonna finish up this side and then I'm gonna go over to the other side. And I'll get back to you guys later with the air tank and all of that diagnosing. And there you have it. Look at that. It's like it wasn't even there pretty much. When it's a little more sunny, I'll finish the rest of it, but I think it's pretty clean. I mean, it's nice. So I will take that. So that's the left side. And this is the right side. This is like really the worst side. And look at that. It's like as if it wasn't even there. It's amazing stuff. It's amazing stuff. And once again, if you are a you know, pedicure you know, guy or gal doing this, I would not recommend it because it is very strong. So now I turn the bus off. So what we're gonna do now is take a sip of your coffee, and it's time to get down to the dirty part, the nitty gritty. So we tackled one issue, now we gotta tackle the other one. Now, I'm in no way, shape, or form a mechanic. I am just, you know, pretty knowledgeable about my equipment. And, you know, I had to learn all of this stuff, you know, through research, through good friends of mine, you know, especially, you know, one in particular, you know, gives me a lot of good information. You know, the most important thing about bus ownership is learning what things do and how things do it. So if you're in a situation, you're able to possibly get yourself out of it or save you some money if you have to bring it somewhere. And the only two issues I had with this bus since I've had it is an issue wasn't even an issue. I ran it out of fuel because I was new to bus ownership and I didn't realize at the time that I was going about 500 miles or so on one tank. And the thing is, it's a Series 50, this is a turbo 4-cylinder. Yes, they are great on fuel, but when you factor in idling, when you factor in, you know, it's a used bus, you don't know when's the last time the injectors have been cleaned, changed, you know, checked. You don't know really what's your true miles per gallon because this is not a car. It doesn't have your instant miles per gallon on the dashboard. So what you have to do is you have to calculate that every fill up. And, you know, I was new to bus ownership at the time. I didn't, you know, I was missing a couple of days in my logbook for fuel and I ran out of fuel. Long story short, made a couple phone calls and a couple people, innocent, you know, bystanders coming off the highway were saying, hey, we see it cranks, but, you know, it's trying to turn over, but it won't turn over. So I think you have a fuel problem. And, you know, I didn't think anything of it. I says, well, when's the last time I put fuel in it? And it was actually much longer than I thought it was. So I ran out of fuel. And anybody that owns a bus knows when you run out of fuel one time, that is all you need. You will never run out of fuel again. So what I had to do was, luckily this bus it's so easy to work on, which I love. You know, I love this bus right here. This gives me no trouble. And a lot of things are in your face. You got your alternator right here. You got your compressor right there. You got your starter right here. These are critical components. Fuel filters. I had to drop both of them. Prime the system. Put fuel in it. Put fuel in the tank. You got a 5-gallon bucket. Put fuel in the tank. You fill up both of them. That's what I did. When I dropped the secondary filter, it was half full. So I said, okay, you know what? This thing is out of fuel. I put fuel in both of them. Started right up. It was ready to go. Been rolling ever since. The second issue I had with it was with the lights. These lights up here. What happened was the wiring was, you know, rubbing against the body of the bus, and dangling wires rubbing will, you know, they'll split. So what happened was, on this bus, which I'm sure a lot of buses are like that, the interlock is tied into the brake lights. So whenever you have the parking brake up, the brake lights are on, the interlock is on. The problem is, this is your brake light right here. This is your brake lights, everything. It all goes to your fuse and relays in the front. This tripped the circuit for the brake lights. I had no brake lights. So I had to cut this, splice it in a new one, which, you know, I learned splicing from Trevor over there at Bus Chronicles. I learned my splicing from him, and I was able to splice in a new one. And I had some help and get some manuals, because what happened was it blew the circuit for the brake light. So it won't go into gear if it can't detect that you're putting your foot on the brake. So I went to the front, flipped the brake switch sensor, jumped the switch, was good to go. So definitely learn splicing if you can. I'm in no shape or form a master splicer. There are certain things that you really should not be splicing, you know, especially in regards to, you know, anything involving your ECM, your transmission computer, anything involving your main circuits and fuses and relays. Don't mess with it. So fix that, jump the sensor, bam. Was able to go down the road. It's been going ever since. I spliced that connection. It's been going ever since. I have no issues. So anyways, we're getting off topic here. So gotta roll my sleeves up. I'm gonna go and drain every single air tank, so that way I don't have to worry about any of those lines opening up. So I already started with this one a little bit. So what you got to do is, this is your first tank, this is your wet tank. This one's always the oily one. This one catches all of your stuff. This is the first one that comes out of the compressor. So you drain this first, since you're already over there. All right, so that is tank number 1. So I'm gonna spare you guys from having to go through all 4 tanks on the bus. So I'm gonna get back to you guys when I finish all 4 tanks. But basically the procedure is the same no matter which one you go to. I'll show you guys this tank. This is, you got your secondary one. Well, this is not your secondary tank, but this is your other tank. Actually, sorry about that. This is accessory. So it's your secondary. Same thing. You go under here. You go under here, and I'll just give you guys a brief thing. All right. Oh, let me get the phone out. You got one tank there, one tank over there. You got your accessory, then you have your secondary, and then you have your, I believe that's a reserve tank in the back. So you got to drain all 4 in the same way, so the whole system is completely gone with air. So that way you're completely good, and you don't have to worry about, you know, rims and tires are good. Yeah, you don't have to worry about, you know, any other stuff. That's all you do. A whole bunch of air comes out. And this is also another practice I learned from some other fellow bus owners, that even if you have an air dryer, it's still good to drain the tanks, especially in the winter. Especially if you want to see how good your air dryer is working. And this is all stuff that I learned. I did not know a lot of this stuff when I first got this bus, and I had to learn. And that's the thing about bus ownership. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to know when to hold them and when to fold them, or whatever, however that saying goes. Certain things you cannot do on your own, because this is a very heavy vehicle. You know, it's not a car where you can put it on a jack and, you know, just jack it up normally. This bus is about 30,000 pounds, 32,000 pounds, around there. So, you know, gotta make sure, safety first. So, all right, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna drain the other two on the other side, and I will get back to you guys when I get back to the governor. Or actually, you know, why not? I'll make this video for other bus owners out there too. And it doesn't matter if you have a you know, RTS, Orion, whatever. If you can reach the tanks, you can drain them. And I recommend that you do, because you'd be surprised the amount of gunk and grime comes from these tanks. So you got your other one. So drain this one. Now I just drained these tanks, so there's not really a lot of crud in them or anything, which is a good thing. You shouldn't see any. So that's one good thing. Then you got one more. Now, as you do this, as you can see with Mary, the bus will start to settle. So that's what I'm saying about safety first. You got to also know your bus. Older buses, the leveling valves and your check valves are not as good as when they were in service. So it will start leaning until you change them, like anything. When you change your leveling valves, your check valves, it will, you know, it'll stop doing the gangster lean. So, but like anything, requires time and money, and not everybody has both. So right here you got your fuel tank. So yeah, this is your last one. So pretty soon, actually, I'm gonna be ordering valves for each tank. And basically, you see this little adapter right here? These little rings that go outside the tank? You basically pull them and the air comes out and they drain. But I actually am working on some better adapters, because these can come out with just you can get some pliers or some needle nose, you know, the ones that lock, and you know, they'll twist right out. And these are, it should be a 1/4 inch drain valve. So I'm gonna go get some better drain valves for all the tanks. I'm gonna get a drain valve that basically all you have to do is just turn a knob and it'll just start draining automatically. So you don't have to get down and get dirty, and especially if you have to drain your tanks pretty often. This is Very tedious process, but you know what, it definitely helps with everything. So, you know, it's funny, I said I wasn't going to take you guys along and I ended up doing it anyways. But you know what, it's important though, because I want to show the world and to show certain individuals, you know, that this piece of equipment right here was not given to me. I worked my hiney off for it and still am. And the buck doesn't end there. So it's a constant learning process. So, and I love it, but you got to make sure you have your coffee too, because there's days where Mary gets mad at me and she don't feel like it, and then there's days I get mad at her and I don't feel like it. That's just how it goes. So, all right, now I'm gonna go to my intergalactic 130 piece toolkit. Please get a toolkit, you need one, and don't just stare at whatever is in here. Make sure you know whatever tool is in here. Make sure you know what it does. So you see, you got, now for the air governor, we need a 9/16, and I had everything labeled, and as usual, I, discombobulated it. Doesn't matter, I'm gonna resurface anyways. Ah, yes, the trusty 9/16. So we're gonna get to the bottom and see what's good with this line, and just check and see why it's acting the way it's acting. I'm gonna put the phone there so that way it's okay. Yeah, all right. So yeah, it doesn't even make sense to waste time. So for these bolts right here, I put some not thread locker, but I put some thread tape here, so that ways, you see how it just came loose, just one turn and it starts coming loose. You know, it's not seized, it's not rusted on or anything, because you know, you want to make sure that these are actually put on correctly and they're not like at an angle or anything, and you just want to make sure. And plus, they're a pain to keep taking on and off, so you really want to make sure that it's on correctly. Now, I've taken these off a couple times before, so pretty familiar with it. I had to change the governor. When I first got this bus, the old governor, it wasn't working. You know, the dryer wasn't working. No air was going to the dryer, so the dryer never worked. A lot of the Carter Flexibles have the same problem, where you'll never hear a boosh from a lot of the Carter Flexibles, and if you do, it does the same thing as this bus. It'll keep doing it over and over again. Now for me, I changed the air dryer to a Bendix style air dryer, you know, from eBay, because at the time, you know, listen, you got to do what you got to do, you know, just to get you down the road. And you know, I knew that eventually you gotta change it, because you know, anything on eBay, you know, if it's a Chinese built product or something like that, it's gonna last like a snowball in hell, then it's not worth it. So what I ended up doing was I installed that. I didn't do it myself because that's a big job. And this dryer, you know, it's starting to fail again. And you know, it's almost a year, but it's definitely starting to fail again. So I ended up getting another Wabco system saver, because that's what, if I'm not mistaken, now I know some of these are different. But most of these Carter Flexibles have the Wabco System Saver 1200, and I found that out by going underneath the bus and looking at it and taking pictures and cleaning up all the gunk and grime. And I changed the cartridge on that. It worked for a little bit, and then I was still having the same problem. So, you know, I ended up just going with the Bendix. The Bendix gets you down the road. You know, it does its job as much as it can for oil and stuff in the system, but it's still, you know, it's not Bendix quality. And you know, the cheapest, you know, I see why Carter did it. It's a cheap dryer that works. So that's what they did. They went with the Wabco. So I ended up just getting another Wabco. So I'll go and end up installing that one of these days whenever I have the time and the money. And yeah, so I'm taking off. These are the reservoir lines, so you know, these go to your tanks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these out and do some testing. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna take all of these out because these are, you got your unloader lines. Like this down here is an unloader line. So, and we're gonna start the bus with all of these running. Sorry, that was not grammatically correct. We're gonna start the bus with the hoses disconnected. Well, what we're gonna do is I'll install the reservoir line back, and not the reservoir line, the unloader line. I'm gonna install that back and see what it does, because if there's no air coming back, then they might be telling us that, hey, all of this works together. All of this works together. And again, like anybody, I had to learn all of that stuff. You know, I don't have manuals, so a lot of stuff I have to learn from asking. You know, you ask. Listen, a lot of stuff you go online and you look it up, and then some things you could just ask a fellow bus owner. So, and you go online, you do your research too. You go online, you call mechanic shops, especially shops that are familiar with dealing with these buses, or shops that are familiar with dealing with the Series 50, because no matter what, Series 50, Series 60, same engine, a lot of similar parts, same injectors, just chopped down. It's all the same. Instead of your traditional truck setup, T drive, this is V drive. Everything is this way. And to be honest, I like V drive. You know, again, I'm no mechanic, but you can't do any of this stuff with a T drive, you know, so that's pretty cool. So everything is off, so we're gonna start the bus, and we are going to check and see the lines. Now, let's see. Alright guys, so it's a little later on at night. I already did the adhesive, so now I'm diagnosing the rest of this air system. So after doing some brainstorming and thinking and countless YouTube videos, I've been trying to think, you know, of how, you know, where in the air system is there a fault, because a lot of your air systems are the same. It's just that they're, you know, lines and tanks and dryers and compressors are in different locations, but air systems don't change. So I'm starting to backtrack, and then I started brainstorming, then I started drinking Starbucks, and I started brainstorming. Then I came to the conclusion, I have the part. I have the part. I might as well try and diagnose this. So you know what? I decided to get it together, and I'm changing the unloader pins on the compressor. So I already took one out, one of the screws. All of these are 1/2 inch socket. Could have used a smaller socket, but that's all right. But all of these are 1/2 inch bolts, except for the one in the middle. That's a 9/16. So what I did was I took this one out, one of the hoses, so that weighs. And the good thing is too, guys, what I learned, and mind you, there's no instruction manual. This is just like research and looking it up. Basically, you got to be careful when you take out these bolts, because this is on top of the compressor. So as you can see, oh, I gotta put my little light. As you can see right here, you got bolts, and then you have the washers that go with the bolts. It's dark. Don't lose the washers, because then air will escape through there. You know, the same problem in oil. And that's what I'm doing now. I have a whole new kit. I've actually had this for quite some time, and you know, I just never felt qualified enough to do it. But you know, after time goes on, you get better, you make mistakes, you get better, you learn from people, you get some tools. And yeah, I got it. This is the part number right here for the fellow Series 50 Flxible owners, especially the car to Flxible people. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have the same issue. One thing about Charleston, it doesn't really go below freezing down there, so honestly it doesn't really make much sense in their eyes to spend the money to completely diagnose all of this stuff if it doesn't go below freezing. If it doesn't go below freezing, then hey, you drain the tanks, it's no problem. But being that, you know, she's up north, you know, it's gonna be cold, and you know, safety is definitely first. So I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna save all of these bolts, and I'm gonna go, well, we don't know what's going on over there, and we're just gonna mind our business. So yeah, it's oily because I sprayed it with some brake cleaner and PB Blaster. Doesn't take much to turn these bolts, which is a good thing. So just wanted to get this on camera, because you know, I'm sure this thing hasn't been changed in quite some time. So, and you really should use 2 hands, guys. So I'm gonna get back to you and let you know what I come up with.